Pat, you might want to put a disclaimer at the front of the episode. Be like, listen, we're going to talk about Man-Thing. This is a very PG-13 episode.
You're listening to Amazing Spider-Man Chronicles, episode 71, featuring Amazing Spider-Man number 215 and X-Men number 144 from January 1981. Hello and welcome to the 71st episode of Amazing Spider-Man Chronicles podcast. I am your host, Pat, aka DJ Christatos. Amazing Spider-Man Chronicles is a podcast that will journal the Amazing Spider-Man comic book issues read chronologically by their release date, along with another comic from my comic book collection, either in digital, in a trade, or from the many long boxes stashed away in my basement. Each episode, we will provide short recaps, reviews, and ratings of the issues for this release date. The goal is to keep me actively reading through my collection and having some fun along the way, talking about the comics with my friends. And as always, the fun continues to happen for 71 episodes. Wow. And my friends continue to be here with me. That's what amazes me the most. And I made some new friends along the way. And one of them is actually here today, but we'll get to that soon. For now, joining me, as always, is Jared Albrecht, a.k.a. Death Probe.
Well, hello, Pat. You know, I live down by the Gulf Coast, and I needed to find myself this past week, so I did some seafood, trawling. I've been out in the bay, casting nets, casting lines. Caught some crabs, Pat. Caught some crabs.
Yep. I know they got some cream for that.
Yeah.
Did you catch it on your Man-Thing?
Ooh, too soon.
Oh, there's so many of these coming this way.
It begins.
Hey, Pat, though, I got a joke for you tonight.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Okay.
Let me hear it.
Okay. What is the difference between people from Dubai and people from Abu Dhabi?
I do not know.
People from Dubai do not like the Flintstones, but people from Abu Dhabi do.
Oh,
and that's caught crab.
You learned that on your
Do
fishing.
they like it on their Man-Things?
Thanks, Jason.
You learned that on your fishing trip, huh?
Yeah, so we should move on.
Yes, definitely. All right. Well, speaking about the Man-Thing himself, let's go ahead and talk to Jason Albrecht, a.k.a. the Man-Thing of Weasel Skull.
Yeah, well, I'm not in a very talkative mood right now. I'm a little bit upset. I heard Delvin was under the weather. I flew all the way out to Charlotte to his house. I cooked him some pancakes, some hash browns, some scrambled eggs, toast, freshly squeezed orange juice. And he just left. He just walked out, man. Didn't eat anything.
Look, I said, can you take a rain check? That's just as good as breakfast.
He'll be back. He'll call you in a couple days. He said he was going to.
No.
I heard him.
No, it's over. It's over, man.
Really? You don't want to give him another chance?
Gonna give me another chance. Look, it's me.
I made him bacon.
You can't resist.
Can I
this.
have whatever Delvin didn't eat? Can I have his bacon and sausage?
You may as well. You might have to heat it up, but here you go.
You could have dolphin sausage if you want. Something Man-Thing.
Yes. Waiting for that. All right. Well, speaking about Delvin and his something, let's go ahead and see how he is. Here is Delvin the Dark Web Williams. Delvin, how are you?
I'm good, Pat, and I would actually have you refer to me to my name, De Elvin. It's De Elvin.
De Elvin?
Apostrophe.
Yes.
Elvin.
There's an apostrophe between the D and the E.
Oh, okay.
Makes it sound more evil that way.
It does.
De Elvin.
He's nuts, by the way.
Well, that's great.
Oh, and that's the show. Come back next episode. We'll talk some more Spider-Man.
We'll talk a little bit more until we get to Delvin, and then it's over with that. I'm glad that you are actually thinking about, a good name change for the evil side of you. I thought it would be Nevlid, but Delvin sounds pretty good.
Yeah, we changed.
Hopefully I'm saying that right.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, it's you, Pat, so we give it a grain of salt.
Okay, yeah. So I'm hard with words. To make it hard, definitely. Let's go ahead and talk to our very special guest who is joining us for the 71st episode. Woo! We put out a call on the Crusader Club on patreon.com under the Longbox Crusade. And here is one of them that answered and said, yeah, I want to be on the show. I'm a club member. I want to be in on this stuff. And we said, well, go ahead and sign up and we'll get you on the show. And dreams really do come true. It really happens.
It's possible.
Yes. And he wanted to be on this one as well, too. And I'm like, okay, here you are. You get to be on this one. And that person is Tim Price. He's one of the Crusader Club members and the host of the Outcasters on the Right On Podcast Network. Hello, Tim.
Hello, Pat. Hello, Crusaders. I'm so happy to be here because, I love this show and my podcast is pretty good. I mean, it's okay. But, seeing you guys, I feel like I found where I really belong, the kind of thing I really love. So this is where I can't wait to be here. I just have one question. I don't know the show's name. Do any of you know what the show's name is?
It's Giant Size Man-Thing Chronicles.
Okay, good. That's good to know. I'll write that down. Hold on.
And with host Devlin.
The Elvin.
No, see, I'm already.
The Elvin, yes.
The Elvin.
All right. Well, it's great to have you here, Tim. Thank you for answering the call on wanting to be a guest on the show. And we will continue to have several other guests as they come from Crusaders Club. So if you want to be like Tim and get on the show, go on over to patreon.com, sign up for $1, and you can get your name in on a show as a guest. Because that's how much we care about our club members. We put them first. Speaking about putting first, you can also leave us a voicemail that we just might play later on in the show. You can leave us a message at 707-532-5269. That's 707-532-LBOX.
Pick up the phone.
Now, before we get started with this episode's issue, let's go ahead and take a quick podcast promo break, and we will be right back.
Hey, listen to Longbox Crusade.
Welcome back from the break. Now let's get to the first featured comic for this episode, and it is Amazing Spider-Man number 215. The credits for this issue are provided by Mike's Amazing World of Comics website. Publisher was Marvel. It's got a cover date of April 1981. On sale date was January 6, 1981. Cover price, if you were in the club, was just 50 cents. Editor is Alan Milgram. Writer, Dennis J. O'Neill. Penciler is John Romita Jr. Inker is Jim Mooney. Letterer goes to
James R. Novak.
Colorist is Roger Slifer with his backup of Devlin.
The Elvin.
See, I'm really bad now. You can find this reprinted in Essential Spider-Man Volume 10 trade paperback or on Marvel Masterworks Volume 283 of Amazing Spider-Man Volume 21 hardcover. Cover credits go to penciler John Romita Jr. and inker is Alan Milgram. And speaking about the cover, let's get a cover description from Jared.
The Marvel Comics Group banner is light blue fin with white letters. Spidey swings in his green puffer's corner box, and the Amazing Spider-Man logo is great white with orange highlights, and it's brimming with the webs. The main action shows Spidey and Namor writhing in pain with plenty of Kirby crackle all around them. It looks like they're being zapped by a killer ray. They seem to be soundly defeated, and as the Frightful Four walk away in the background, presumably to regroup her, the Wizard turns his head to declare, "We don't have to kill them. Spider-Man and the Submariner are no longer a threat to the Frightful Four." It looks like a pretty crappy outcome for our heroes. Will they survive? Tune into our discussion to find out.
Well, I think I figured out the theme.
It's kind of fishy, but I think I figured it out too.
Yeah, it was fish.
Jumping man thing.
Oh.
It was fish.
Fish. Yes, very good. So you must, as you were going on your walk there and the fishing, this came to you.
Well, I was doing the when I caught the crabs.
Got the crabs.
Oh, that's a pretty good hook, Jared. Yeah.
Ooh,
Thank you.
Well, all right. Well, let's go ahead and get at some cover thoughts on this, and we'll start with our guest, Tim. What's your thoughts on the cover?
Well, it's a loud cover. That's how it feels, with the beams of light coming out from the background that just shoot out from all of our figures, and the Kirby crackle, Spider-Man just grabbing the sides of his head, and Namor just fingers are clenching. They're either like in pain or they're rocking out to some death metal, one or the other.
I think death metal.
I do like the figures in the front, but it's kind of weird having the Frightful Four kind of turning away and leaving, because then like you lose the focus on them. It's like, how do they fit into the story or anything? It's like they're kind of like lose any emphasis on them, so you don't really see the villains. It's like they're not standing on triumphantly. They're kind of just like wandering off,
away.
Uninterested. That kind of takes a little wind out of the sails on the cover in my front. But still, there's loud is what I've come from.
I can see where you're getting that from, definitely. Let's go to Delvin.
The Elvin.
Yes, that's the Elvin, Pat. We'll practice it. We got time. We got the rest of this podcast. It looks like, for whatever reason, that like Namor and Spidey are doing like some funky dance, and like the Frightful Four is like, "I'm not down with the way you guys dance," and then they
they're going on the dance floor. It's like, it's time for some punch.
Yeah, they're like, "Disco's dead, guys. It's 1981," and then they're just walking off. I don't know what it is. It's not a bad cover. I don't mind the Kirby crackle or the light in the background, because I guess they just wanted to do something to put some accentuation on the villains. But I think it's a good cover. Like, Spidey's well drawn, Namor's well drawn. Like, the bad guys, even though they're in the background, are well drawn too. No big complaints.
Jason, what's your thoughts?
Well, sometimes covers are iconic covers, and this is not that. But I will say that as I look at it, as somebody that may be coming into Spider-Man for the first time, this would be a cover that would grab my attention. I mean, you do have Namor, who is a fairly popular character, teamed up with Spider-Man. They're obviously in some sort of distress. And then you have these Frightful Four characters. They're just walking away from them. And even saying there on the cover, hey, we don't have to fight them. We've taken care of them. So it makes you kind of want to open the book and find out what's going on. And as somebody who's been reading it and knows a little of the backstory with the Frightful Four, same thing. I kind of know that, okay, they left us on a cliffhanger. Now they're picking up in this issue where we left off, right on the cover, which is where I want to be. So from a hook angle, I think it works, even though it's not really an iconic or, great cover. It's still pretty good.
I think I understand where you come from. You made a great point of hooking you in at where it was left off the issue before and where it is now, and wanting you to open it up and read it. I personally like the webs with that black webs up on the top there. That really stands out to me and looks really cool. And let's go ahead and find out from Jarrett what he thought after his great cover synopsis. That was a little fishy. Let's go ahead and see what he thought.
What you doing there? In order for this joke to work, you have to assume that the Frightful Four do not care for Cher, and Spider-Man really doesn't like Cher. And Namor is singing, "Do you believe in life have to love. Because if you do that, this cover's pretty awesome. No, I like it. I like the energy Tim mentioned in the very first round. It's a high energy cover, and I like that. I kind of like the way the Frightful Four are walking away, like they have other things to do. Because that makes me go, how in the sweet, sweet Stanley universe did the Frightful Four overpower Spidey and Namor? This is a group that should take a loss to Spidey or Namor, but actually defeated Spidey and Namor? Wow, okay. I want to know more. So it's a decent drawing, but also what Jason said, it's not iconic. It's more informational. So that's where I'll leave it.
It seems like there's some consistency on this cover of it's doing its job, getting you pulled in, but we'll see. And with that, we will definitely find out right now as we go ahead and do the cover rating for this issue. And as a reminder, it's a 1 through 5 cover rating. 5 is you loved it. It tickled your tummy feathers. 4, you really liked it. 3, liked it. 2, didn't like it. And 1, you hated it. It ruffled your tummy feathers and just made you scream like this. Let's go ahead and find out. Tim, on a 1 through 5, what will you be giving this cover?
It's a tough call because I also have a lot of nostalgia for this issue and this cover. I mean, the reason this issue is special to me is because my mail order subscription for Amazing Spider-Man began with this issue.
Ooh.
Way back in the day.
Awesome.
And that actually began my crusade of collecting Amazing Spider-Man ever since. So,
very cool.
Yeah. I have a lot of nostalgia for the issue and for this cover, in spite of the comments I had on it. But I think I'm going to just stick with my original impulse. I mean, I am obviously not musical genius Joe November. Obviously not.
Yes. None of us are, Tim. None of us can ever be.
Except, of course, for Joe.
Yeah.
Joe, yeah. However, in a musical vein, I think I'll give this a 4 flat. So it's on the low side of a 4. You know? I think I really like it. John Romita Jr.'s artwork was sold on me from this very beginning of this issue.
Okay.
It's like you can see what kind of things he does. And this is my first time really seeing his artwork. So I became a fan from him right here. Wow. So I'm going to give it a 4 flat.
All right. Not bad. And thanks for giving us a little more in depth on why you wanted to be on this issue with us and what it means to you. But let's go ahead and go to Delvin, 1 through 5 on this.
Along that same vein, I'll give it a 3 sharp. That worked perfectly. And so I don't need to say any more.
Jason, 3 sharp, 4 flat.
I'm with Delvin, 3 sharp. It does its job. It's well drawn, pretty well laid out for all the characters that they have on there. And it hooked me. So 3 for me.
Jared, where will you fall?
I'm going to give it a 3 sousaphone. I don't like music. It's a 3. I like it at a 3. Just fine.
Well, on
3,
that,
a 3, a solid 3, a little better than a 4.
This is not on me. I didn't wind him up. I don't know who did it.
It just popped in there. I'll go back on you.
Well, on that note, I will give it a 3 as well. So we got 3 cool guys. 1, 2, 3. No, yeah, 3. No, 4, 3, 4, 3 guys.
Do you need a calculator? I got one. Hold
on. Some people had it at a 3 and some 4, 3.
So, and one guy with a 4. So.
4 of us that had it at 3 and one guy had it at 4. But I totally get it, man. That was, that's a kickoff memorable issue. Then,
that's awesome. Did it come in a brown bag, Tim? Wrapped in it when it got it in the mail?
That was the Playboy, I think.
That's, I think. Oh, yes, it did, actually. And it was not the Playboys.
Not yet.
Those come in plastic wrappers, Jason. I thought you knew
so
that.
Definitively.
I ordered them from the mail, and they came in clear with a little kind of lame board in the back.
Okay.
Back in the day. Mine never came in a brown bag. I'm kind of jealous now.
Well, I'll tell you, those paper thin round wrappers that are the size of a comic book issue that they come around here that are like micrometers thick. Oh, your comic is really secure in the mail from that.
Yeah.
It could like withstand a nuclear blast from that. I'll tell you right now.
I remember getting my Joes that way. but I still read it. So happy was getting them that way. All right. Well, with the cover rating out of the way, let's go ahead and get to the story synopsis. And that is brought to you by Delvin. While attending a demonstration in radiology, high school student Peter Parker was bitten by a spider which had accidentally been exposed to radioactive rays. Through a miracle of science, Peter soon found that he had gained the spider's powers and had, in effect, become a human spider, a Spider-Man. Stanley presents The Amazing Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, Spider-Man, does whatever a spider can. Spins a web in his eyes, catches thieves just like God. Yeah, here comes the Spider-Man.
The title of this issue is By My Powers Shall I Be Vanquished. Why are these titles so dramatic? Is it me? Anyway, last we left Spidey, Namor and he were shot by some ray gun from the Wizard, and the Frightful Four take advantage by basically literally kicking the crap out of both heroes. You should see them right now. Grown men with hands down their pants. Spidey and Namor escape. Namor to the sea acting like a man with a berserker rage. Bring it to me, represent. And Spidey to eventually Deb Whitman's place. Then away from Deb Whitman's place to get back to the pretty girl at the hotel. I think Deb is starting to realize that during the tenure of her friendship with Pete, that he doesn't know shit. Anyway, Spidey is ambushed again by the Frightful Four and sent floating off into the air into outer space, bound and unable to do anything about it. Oh yeah, it's important to note that Namor has Spidey sense now, and Spidey does not. That's why Spidey was so easy to ambush at the hotel. So Spidey gives Namor a tutorial, and the good guys beat the crap out of the bad guys, except for Lil Lyra, who Spidey eventually finds out is the pretty girl he's been mooning over. The customer, Spidey, is always right. Not this issue. The customer is always an a-hole. But Namor once again has Spidey's back and knocks Lil Lyra to La La Land and leaves Spidey to realize what a jerk he's been to Deb Whitman. And he has been. That's the summary. Anyone guess the thing?
Clerks.
Mallrats.
Oh.
Anyone guess why? Because in this comic book, Spidey got punched in an uncomfortable place.
Like the back of a Volkswagen?
Exactly.
Good one.
Back to you, Pat.
All right. Well, thank you, D. Elvin. I don't know if I got that right,
Elvin.
but probably.
It's closer.
It's closer. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get to the bric-a-brac for this issue and find out, is it a first read or a reread? And we'll start with Tim, which I probably already know what it's going to be, but go ahead and tell us, Tim.
Because of why I asked to be on this episode, I think it's only fair that I've recused myself from being counted for the first read or reread. I mean,
I guess I get up.
That's how it goes. I've never read it before. Never.
There you go. Lie. That's the way to go.
Owned the comic for 40 plus years. Never read it.
The only people that are going to blast you on that is just the people in the comments. But if
Oh, that's fine then. Yeah, no, of course I read it. It's got like bazillion little tick marks on the side of the cover from like, oh yeah, it's been read a lot.
it's been
Back
read.
Is that the one you're holding? Is that the one you got in the mail as a kid?
Yeah,
Nice.
Nice.
it's the original one. It has the wear and tear to prove it.
That's how they
Very
should
cool.
be.
Very cool.
Read.
All right, Delvin, first read or a reread?
First read for me, Pat.
Jason, first read, reread.
First read for me as well.
Jared?
Jared. Yes, sir. It is a first read for me because I don't ruin things.
Yep. If Tim would have known, maybe he wouldn't have gotten this issue.
He would have held out for those 4+ decades.
Yeah.
just so we could.
Or maybe sent that in a week or a month later, so your subscription would start at another time. That's what
So many
I'm a horrible person for reading.
Oh, we're not saying that, Tim. We're not saying that.
I am.
I'm
You're a pretty horrible person, Tim.
Oh,
thank you.
well,
Just
that's
call me
'cause-
M.
yeah.
Next time you put out a call for guests, you get nobody, Pat.
No,
Nobody's coming off the show.
Just be like, don't go.
no, we love you guys anyway, so we're just having some fun here. All right, well, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and have some fun with talking about some highs, lows, or a what does. And I'm sure there's probably a what does somebody has. So let's go ahead and start with Tim. You got a high, low, or what the for the first round?
Sure. I think I was going to start with a high on this issue, which I'll turning to page 14. An example of John Romita Jr. doing great action is we have this whole fight between our heroes and the Frightful Four, and Spider-Man just knocks the wizard from his helmet straight into a wall. And I'm glad you're wearing a helmet, Wizzy, because I do want to hit you. And he's got his fists and his feet clobbering into this poor guy who's a normal human with a helmet. And I just love that shot because it is pretty powerful.
And his body looks so limp too. There, the wizard's body just like super ragdoll-y kind of looking on that one. Definitely a lot of good fights in this issue.
Yeah, the next panel is definitely the payoff, where his head is still stuck in the wall. The rest of his body.
Oh yeah, I didn't see that. I didn't even see that. Good call. All right, well, let's go ahead and go to Jarrett. You got a high, low, or what the?
You know, brace yourself. I'm going to speak to a very specific listener right now. Brace yourself and try not to send us any angry emails, Auburn Elvis, but I'm about to tear down our boy Peter Parker because, yeah, he's treated Debbie Whitman bad, but this is beyond bad. We are in ridiculous territory now. She did everything to take care of him and make him feel better and make him feel special, as she's been doing for months now. And he's still like just a total jerk to her. All over some girl he got goo-goo-eyed for because she was pretty. Well, newsflash, Peter. Debbie Whitman's really pretty, and she really likes you, and she does really great things for you. Ridiculous. If we were in prison, I would talk to the warden about this. It's way out of line. Way out of line.
I want to rip off that because that's the thing that hurts the most. Well, the second most.
The other thing.
Yeah. But yeah, between that and Pete/Spidey being so easily duped in this issue, it was like, I mean, he ran into like 8 ambushes in a 23 page. I was like, come on, man. They had to do something to make the Frightful Four seem a little bit more threatening. But like it involved Peter Parker just basically ignoring his spider sense. And that is just one thing that just, that always grits him. He's like, I know I rely on my spider sense like all the time, but maybe this time it's on the fritz. Why? No, it's not. It's like maybe this.
I mean, it was earlier, but at that point he had it back and it was screaming at him, and he was like, "He'll be fine."
Yeah. So between that though and the Deb Whitman thing, and I mean, and that's just a particular thing with me. It's like, come on, man. She made you food. She let you crash your deadbeat butt on her couch for 14 hours and doted on you and took care of you. And you're like, yeah, rain check.
I mean,
at least grab some food.
Listen. Sex and Pancake sounds like a 90s alternative rock song, but Peter could have had Sex and Pancake. Feel free to put that in the outtakes.
I like sex. I like pancakes.
I smell sex and pancakes. I know I kept thinking couldn't do that.
I kept thinking of the same thing too. I'm like, man. Yeah.
If I can chime in on the whole Whitman fiasco, it's like, this year I've been reading some other books written by Roger Stern, and a lot of them were Spectacular Spider-Man right around this same era. And Deb Whitman appears a lot more in that series at the same time. So it was also really great because I hadn't read those stories before. So if you were doing Spectacular Spider Chronicles, then I would have been a first read. But you know, what are you going to do?
It's all going back.
All right. Yeah.
It was a thing to see more of their relationship and more of it building up there and seeing, how they knew each other and working together. And then also see like, they're just stringing this unrequited love between Deb and Peter just along and along and along. It's a very long-standing thing. So it's almost like, are they finally building it to a head where we're going to get some resolution? I don't know.
I'm kind of wondering, when is it going to end? And I don't know.
It better have ended after that breakfast.
I would hope so with her, because she's like, don't mention it. Don't mention it.
No Whitman 3-pack for you.
Yeah. To go back to Spider-Man with Delvin said about his spider senses. Come on, you keep going back to the same place. The place was busted up now, right? And you keep going back there, and the same girl's always there. You got to put 2 and 2 together. What's going on? I don't get it. Jason, do you have a high, low, or what the?
I'm going to jump on the theme of Debbie Whitman. I'd never heard of her before, so I thought she just might be a brief passing in the Spider-Man story, but she's got some tales to tell. I had no idea. And as I've gotten to know her character, I don't know, maybe I'm like a fatherly figure that wants to take Peter aside and say, look, man, that Mary Jane's no good. You need to grab you some Debbie Whitman. She's making you pancakes. She's nursing you back to health. Man, she's done a lot for him. I think she should be done with old Spider-Man. I'm a little disappointed in our boy. I know I kind of jumped on everybody else's, but I was thinking that too, and I wanted to throw my hat in the ring.
You know, he's kind of become his own Mary Jane. You know, she was kind of like that way with Spider-Man, throwing him off, you know.
I like
and now,
Debbie, Debbie, I got my ass beat. Can I sleep on your couch, Debbie?
I'm just saying, like, even if Mary Jane is all that, and then clearly she is, in that, like, you know, present day, like a lot of people are clamoring for Mary Jane and Pete to come back together and everything. I'm just saying, if your second place in life is a pretty girl who would nurse you and take care of you and make you breakfast, yeah, that's a good second place. That's a good first. I'm gonna stop.
she probably even washed his soup for him, you know.
Food, man.
Peter, come on, open your eyes, Peter.
How can you turn down fresh bacon? I mean, come on. He woke up smelling bacon.
Yeah.
I'm not that strong.
Bacon is my weakness, definitely. Well, let's go ahead and get into round number 2, and we'll go back to Tim for another high, low, or a what the.
All right. Well, this is definitely a what the, and it's a different angle on how Peter has been portrayed in this story, and especially this issue, where he's just left Deb and he's going to call the mystery pretty girl, realizing, I don't know her name.
Mm-hmm.
Hung up on her, like beyond all belief, doesn't know her name. Now, we do find out later that Lilira has kind of mental powers. Could that be part of the explanation? Maybe, but they don't really explain it. They don't really explore it to that degree. So just like, come on, man, you don't even know her name. You're going to throw Deb out for someone who you haven't even asked their name yet. Peter's doing great in this issue.
Jarrett, do you have another high, low, or what the for round 2?
Man, I've got a high, and it is going to play off of what Tim said earlier. It's when basically Namor and Spidey get their crap together, and they come in there, right? And there's just so much good in that scene. And Tim hit the nail on the head. It kind of literally, because Spidey's boom, right? Wizard into the wall with that great panel dangling there. What I really like is what else is going on, okay? Namor comes in and just whammies Sandman, right? Sandman ends up being the smartest dude in the room. He's like, I want no parts of this. And he very surreptitiously leaves that fight. And then what makes the icing on the cake is Namor's like, oh, this spider sense thing, I'm getting the hang of it. I'm going to go in, boom, right? And who's in there but Trapster? And Trapster is squaring off against a guy who can fight toe-to-toe with the Thing and the Hulk and Colossus. And he's like, I got the drop on you. Trapster, you've never got the drop on anybody. I don't care.
But Jared, it's a glue gun.
I'm just like, what were you thinking? Like, he's like, I got the drop on Namor. Meanwhile, Sandman is still literally sliding out the back door. Smartest guy in the Frightful Four. Wizard thinks he's a genius. No, sir. Sandman is the smartest guy in the Frightful Four, hands down. I love that whole scene. Starting with where Tim brought it in, to the Sandman bailing, to Trapster, like, I got the drop on the Submariner.
I'm going to raise you up a little bit there, Jared, too, is that the Namor really has also gone toe-to-toe with the entire Fantastic Four.
So these guys.
Period. The whole team.
So like, Sandman left his costume behind.
Sandman's like, screw you guys, I'm going home.
Yeah, and you said something about it earlier, Jared, about how, like, Spidey and or Namor alone could take them out. And that kind of speaks to it. Namor got the drop on Sandman and completely dispersed him with one punch, like boom. And Sandman was like, nope.
Thanks, everybody. It's been great. I'm out.
Try to Bill. See you later.
We almost had him.
Trapster, I got the drop on Namor.
So close.
Oh, man. That just cracks me up. All right. From here, it's to Jason.
It's not necessarily a low. It's not quite a what the. I was just a little disappointed when I discovered that Namor had Spider-Man spider senses. I thought we were going to have like a Freaky Friday type of moment where, like, when Namor went into the water for a half a second, I thought like he was going to start to drown because he couldn't breathe underwater anymore. And Spider-Man had the underwater breathing capability. So I was a little bit disappointed in that, but I did think that Namor getting the spider sense was pretty cool. It really shows what it would be like if you had it, how unnerving it would be at first, and how Spider-Man has really gotten used to it. But yeah, I was looking forward to a little bit more of a Freaky Friday moment where their power sets got switched.
I was wondering the same thing too. When that came through, I was like, well, what did Spider-Man really get besides just tired or whatever?
He lost his spider sense.
Okay.
Which is why he was able to get ambushed, where he went back and was like, oh, hey, pretty lady. And Sandman was like, wow, that felt good. Like Sandman never would have gotten a drop on Spidey and Spidey just assumed that he still had his spider sense, but he didn't.
I think Spider-Man got Namor's sense of dickishness when it came to Debbie. that was the power.
You could probably make that a no prize of why he treated her that way.
Although from what we've seen the last couple of issues, I don't think he need much help.
No.
Petey's got his own man thing going on there, so I think he's
definitely.
Just real quick, also, is that even just the idea about the spider sense swap, it's like it just was like part of this issue and then resolved. It's like even that alone was something. Nowadays, we would have like 2 or 3 issues of it being a real problem for both of them. We'd be seeing more of it drawn out, but it really didn't get drawn out. And really, the Namor getting the spider sense meant that instead of staying in Atlantis, he came back and kicked the Frightful Four's butt. So it kind of backfired on them to do that in the first place.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
I kind of really good having to see it explore a little bit more.
Yeah, they were like, "Hey, Reed, can you help us?" Reed's like, "Yep, okay, I can do it." Boom, we're done. And Namor's still looking at Sue like, "Hey, baby, remember me?"
He ain't never stopped looking at Sue. Ever. Not ever.
Namor looks at Sue like Debbie looks at Peter.
Yeah, difference is Sue, you know what, never mind.
Yeah.
We can keep going.
All right, well, with that, let's go ahead and pick a silly Spidey moment for this issue.
Spidey getting punched in the butt. Next.
Agreed.
Velvet came in like a wrecking ball.
The Sandman enema. That's what.
All right. Are we gonna? That was a good one. I think we all probably choose that one. Does anybody have a different one besides Sandman? Jarrett. Wow, Jarrett. That wasn't yours?
I mean, the Sandman hitting what we called in our text chat the under tummy feathers. It's kind of classic. Like I said, I've seen it passed around Twitter before. It was kind of neat to see where it came from. But I got to tell you, one of the biggest laughs I got out of the whole thing was, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but it was when a beautiful nameless neighbor lady turns into Lyra, right? Or Lyra, however she pronounces it. And Spidey's like, man, I just can't bring myself to hit you. And Namor literally flies in the window and punches her in the face. I can do it. I was dying. I was like, I don't know. It was like comedic timing. I don't know if they did that on purpose or, but it made me laugh. I laughed out loud when I read it.
Namor was like, these hands are equal opportunity.
I play Mortal Kombat. I'll fight a woman.
Well, see, she's obviously done a lot to him, so I can see where he's kind of.
She tried to stab Spider-Man with a knife. Like,
I know, right?
You can defend yourself, Spider-Man. I mean, come on.
He left breakfast to go get stabbed by someone for a knife when he could have been using that knife to cut up the sausage and the pancakes and all that. Man. Anyway, Tim, did you have a different silly Spidey?
It's not as good as the other ones. But it did jump out to me at the line on page 11 where he crawls in through the window and says, "Hi there, got any flies you want caught?"
I like that one too. I did note that one. Yes, because he's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That's even better. Thanks, Jared.
Because it's like a spider's natural instinct would be to catch the flies.
Oh, okay.
Got it.
Makes sense.
I did like that line though. I did note it. I was like, "This is a silly Spidey candidate."
Yeah, I would definitely. I got to go with the sandy butt, whatever.
It ruffled the under tummy feathers.
Yeah, that's just something you don't see all the time.
I get sandy butt all the time at the beach. I don't know what you're talking about.
Like, what a weird artistic choice. Didn't they know?
After repeated washes too, it's going to take a while for that plan to come out.
And I'm like, I'm like,
jeez.
Who's the editor on the? Are they letting this slide like that? But
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I was like, okay, so this was a choice.
must have been rush day, and they had to get it done and out the door. All right, well, let's go ahead and move on into the ratings for this issue. Again, it's a 1 through 5 rating. 5 is you loved it. It tickled your tummy feathers. 4, you really liked it. 3, liked it. 2, didn't like it. And 1, you hated it. You got a sandy butt underneath your tummy feathers. Ooh, explosion. Let's go ahead and find out. Tim, 1 through 5 on the story. How would you rate it?
Well, you definitely don't want a sandy butt next to your man thing, I'll tell you.
There's cream for that, too.
Oh, good. Thank goodness. You're rereading this issue. It's like you also see there's just some problems with it. It's like, but there's also some fun things in there. So I kind of came through on a 3 sharp for it, So it's a high 3. High 3. I liked it. I thought it was a solid story, but it's like, it did its job. Moving on.
Delvin, 1 through 5.
I'm at a 4. And if I had to use the musical theme, I'd say 4 flat, but I would give it a 4 because it was fun. Like, it was good art, good storyline, plot advancement where they brought Namor back and they continued the Frightful Four arc, which looks like it's come to a close. And like, you've got Pete/Spidey acting just a little bit out of sorts. So I'm interested in this Debbie Whitman thing. I hope they end up at least as friends, but like, man, he's got to go and eat some crow. Like, dude, or Deb, I was a grade A jerk to you. Like, you made me food and you took care of me when I was like down and out. And at a minimum, I need to say thank you and I'm sorry. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. And if that's the case, then Spidey as a book overall is doing a good job.
Jason, 1 through 5. How are you going to rate it?
I'm at a 4 as well. This isn't an iconic run, but it was a good little story, and I thought they wrapped it up well. You can see why Spider-Man is such a popular character in the Marvel Universe, because he can team up with just about any character. He fits in just about anywhere, and he'd fit in well with Namor. I thought that the beating that they took at the hands of the Frightful Four, man, I was kind of fired up. I was ticked off at the abuse that they took. So when they got their retribution in that final act, boy, that felt good. That was entertaining. Mm-hmm. And the art, as we talked about, really so visceral, and just seeing how strong Spider-Man is when he's really laying into somebody, and Namor just crunching that gun and just blowing that glue gun back up in the old boy's face. It was really cool. And I'm with Delvin. I want to see what happens with old Deb Whitman there, because she deserves better. But this issue deserves a 4.
I am going to agree with you and Delvin as well, too, with a 4. I really enjoyed it. I want to say it was a fast read, but I was intense on reading it, and I couldn't put it down. And that's a good sign of a good story that's happening. And like you, Jason, I wanted to know, are they going to get this other team Frightful Four going to get their comeuppance or what? Because those guys, they got to beat down, but man, the other 4 guys got to beat down. So nobody punches Spidey in the sandy butt and gets away with it. Something's going to happen to you. Jared, where are you on a 1 through 5?
Easy 4 for me. It was just so enjoyable. There was so much going on, fast paced. Echo what everybody else said. Easy 4. Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Well, you all have talked me up. I was borderline anyway as it was. So I'll give it a little 4 as well. Because, I also like the artwork sold me on it. Lots to enjoy on it. I was just borderline on it. I did not like Peter's behaving badly. That might have pulled me down a little bit more. but I definitely am happy with a 4. So let's make it 4 for me.
All right. Boom, boom.
Retroactive 4. Boom, boom, boom. Retroactive 4. Boom, boom.
Oh, all right. Well, with that, let's go ahead and find out from our resident karma expert with Elbin Elvis and the karma count for this issue. Does he give points for?
He's going to lose some karma for that Debbie Whitman, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. But let's go ahead and find out what he thinks.
I guess I'm your karma, and I love it. I can't get enough of it. There's nothing above it.
Hello, Crusaders. This is fan of the show, Auburn Elvis, and from time to time on the Longbox shows, the question of can superheroes improve their strength by working out comes up. Well, according to the 1984 Marvel superhero role-playing game, they can, but it ain't easy. In the game, heroes gain and lose karma points for how heroic the actions are in the game. Karma can be saved up over time and spent to improve a hero's ability scores. Improving an ability costs 10 times its current score, so if Spider-Man wanted to improve his strength of 40 to a 41, it would cost him 400 karma points. And to give you an idea of how long it would take Spider-Man to earn that much karma, here's a karma count for his actions in this issue. Amazing Spider-Man 215 starts with Spidey and Namor getting defeated by the Frightful Four. This was technically a private defeat, so we're only taking away 20 karma for it. However, there is one panel in this fight that I am just sure that the guys spent about an hour talking about, and all I'm gonna say is that Spidey loses 10 more karma for that. You just can't let that sort of thing happen, Spider-Man. Now later on, Peter gets some first aid from Deb, and he repays her by ditching her once he doesn't need her anymore. That should be just a 5-point karma deduction, but I'm going to double it because this thing is getting out of hand. Still later, Spidey checks in on the mystery tenant and gets defeated again by the Frightful Four. That's yet another 20-point karma loss for the webhead. Now, after getting rescued by Namor, Spidey gets 5 karma for some jokes, and then he teams up with the Submariner to defeat the Frightful Four. There's some property damage, but Spidey still ends up with 205 karma for all those defeated foes and the 2 of them that were arrested. I'm also going to give Spidey a 10 karma role-playing bonus for realizing what an idiot he was with the way he acted over the mystery tenant. Good job, Peter. So, counting everything up, Spider-Man earns a total of 155 karma in this issue. And if he had about 3 more adventures like this, he would gain enough karma to improve his strength from a 40 to a 41. I'm Auburn Elvis. Thank you very much for listening to this karma count. Now play us out, Joe November.
I guess I'm your karma, and I love it. I can't get enough of it. There's nothing above it.
And thanks once again to Auburn Elvis for that karma count. And Joe with that sweet, sweet beat. Man, I love that beat. With that, that's going to bring us to the end of this part of the show. You got a comment or a question, send us an email at contact@longboxcrusade.com or make a comment on the Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook page. We will be right back.
So which is the hottest Marvel character?
Iron Man.
Ant-Man. I can't decide between Professor X and Magneto, so both.
Loki.
Is Wolverine Marvel?
What about White Tiger?
What about White Tiger?
Doc Samson?
Doc who?
Star Fox?
That's a video game.
The girls go on a journey to determine every Marvel character's hotness in Ohatmu or Not, the official handbook of the Marvel Universe podcast you didn't know you wanted. Available on iTunes and at fireandwaterpodcast.com.
Welcome back from the break. Now let's get into the second featured comic for this episode, which is determined by our Crusader Club members. Club members get to vote on this segment using the online poll only available on the Longbox Crusade page at patreon.com. As always, we want to thank our Crusader Club members for voting to help determine the programming for this show. If you want to get in on the voting and all the other amazing benefits of being a Crusader Club member, just head on over to patreon.com and search for Longbox Crusade. You can join for as little as $1 per month and help determine what each episode's second feature will be. For this episode, the Crusader Club members selected Uncanny X-Men number 144. The credits for this issue are provided by Mike's Amazing World of Comics website. Publisher was Marvel. It's got a cover date of April 1981. but its on-sale date was January 13th, 1981. Cover price was 50 cents. Editor, Louise Simonson. Writer was Christopher S. Claremont.
Esquire.
Penciler goes to Brent Eric Anderson. Inker is Joseph Rubenstein. Letter is Tom Orjakowski. And colorist is the one, the only Glennis Wee.
Hey.
Always a pleasure, Glennis. Always a pleasure to see you here. This is reprinted in X-Men Classic number 48. Also, the Essential X-Men Volume 2 trade paperback. Marvel Masterworks Volume 90 of the Uncanny X-Men Volume 6 hardcover. Uncanny X-Men Omnibus Volume 2. And X-Men Epic Collection called I, Magneto. Ooh. And with that, cover credits go to penciler Brent Eric Anderson. And inker is Joseph Rubenstein. And speaking about the cover, let us get a cover description from Jared.
The Marvel Comics group banner is light blue with black letters. The light blue corner box contains the floating heads of Wolverine, Colossus, Storm, Kitty Pryde, Nightcrawler, and Angel. The X-Men logo is white with blue highlights, and it includes the Uncanny. The main action depicts Cyclops blasting a giant Despair in the forehead with an optic blast. Despair seems amused by this, as Man-Thing burns in the center of the cover. One cover blurb states, "Cry Despair." Another blurb informs the reader, guest starring the macabre Man-Thing. Now, I originally wrote this description with lots of male genitalia puns in it because the whole Man-Thing appearance, but I knew that Pat wouldn't approve of that. So with a stiff upper lip and a head held erect, I took the harder road of class and dignity.
Thanks for not leaving anything despaired out.
I thought that was very distinctive, Jared.
Thank you.
Yes.
Warms me cockles.
And not a moment to spare.
If only
the high
we had-
road with the pun. I like the high road pun.
Let's go ahead and get to some quick cover thoughts on this issue, and we will talk with Tim. What's your thoughts on the cover?
Well, one thing is that I really like the artwork on this cover, and I know that it says Brent Anderson is the artist, but the style that he's channeling looks so much like John Byrne's. I really still am wrestling with the idea that it's not John Byrne doing the artwork in this issue. There's a lot to like about how this style looks, and you can see it in the face of Cyclops there and in Despair as well, that there's definitely some Burnsian influences here. Cyclops looks awesome the way he's blasting at our villain. The fire coming off of Man-Thing is just rippling, and I like how bright the color contrast is between the green of Man-Thing and the fire that's coming from him. And Despair looks intimidating, just looming over all of our heroes here.
Reaching out to them.
It's a really great cover. I really like it.
Delvin, what's your thoughts on the cover?
I agree largely with Tim. Despair definitely looks just really creepy in the background. I wanted to give it another look, and aren't we spoiled, right? Like, there have been so many John Byrne covers, and then you got a classic Terry Austin cover with the Sentinel going on that, like, you could possibly look at this cover and kind of take it for granted, but I don't want to do so. I can't remember whether I've seen Brett Anderson's work anywhere else. The name sounded familiar, and maybe I'll have to look it up and see if I've seen his pencil somewhere else. But this is a very good cover. I mean, especially given that two of the main characters on the cover aren't even X-Men. And it's not like Cyclops is the most dynamic X-Men to draw. If you got somebody like a Phoenix or a Storm or whatever, you just got I-Beam Cyclops, and he's like looking like he is opening up full blast at this villain that possibly isn't even fazed by it. So very good job on this cover. I was and am impressed.
I definitely agree with what you had mentioned there. And I think what really makes it stand out is just the black background. Gives you that darkness happening and Despair coming in like that. I like that. And I think it just makes Cyclops pop and the Man-Thing pop. Jason, what's your thoughts?
I'm largely in agreement with the fellas. When I first saw this cover, I thought it was a Sentinel reaching out to grab him.
Okay.
And then I looked closer and I saw Man-Thing in the center there, which I was like, that's kind of weird. And so I looked at it closer, and I didn't really know the character Despair. it really just kind of drew me in. Like Delvin mentioned, the kind of the creepiness and the ominence of the face and the hands reaching out. And it really takes up so much of the cover, just that presence right there. And those black eyes and that grin with the just filled with black and the void of the mouth. It looks creepy. And I don't really know much about Man-Thing, even to this day, other than, I make Man-Thing jokes, but you can tell that he's in distress there, on fire in the center, and Cyclops coming to his aid. And for those of us that have been reading the book, Cyclops isn't even on the team anymore. So there's a lot of questions. And again, similar to what we talked about with Spider-Man, this is one of those covers that makes you want to open up the book and see what the heck is going on.
Yeah. Why is Cyclops on this cover? What's going on? And I like you, I do not know a lot about the Man-Thing either. Just what I've kind of learned in my health class growing up in school. Jared, what's your thoughts?
My thoughts is that was a good one, Pat. That's a good one.
Learned if your Man-Thing is on fire. It's on fire.
Yeah, I don't know. I heard Batman seeing a Man-Thing up close, once or twice.
Pat, I'll save us and talk about this cover. I have mentioned in the past that I'm doing most of my reading now off of the essentials. So I am reading them in black and white. And I actually think this cover looks better in black and white than color, because while I think it is really well drawn, something about the color saturation, and maybe just on the digital, I don't know, I don't have the original in front of me, but kind of Jason was alluding to it. Like I had to look at it and then look at it and then look at it to figure out all that was going on. And I didn't have to do that in the black and white version. So I think the black and white, the pencils and ink work is really good. And that's not to say that the colorist did a bad job. It's just, there's a lot of, it's green and
careful,
blue and red. And I do like the black background, but it does make it a little more challenging to discern, especially that Man-Thing in the middle when it's colored. So yeah, in summary, I think it looks better in its original black and white. Going all the way back to the beginning of this round, what Tim said, I mean, it's on par with what we've been seeing. And for to be able to say that and it not be Byrne or Cockrum, Cockrum drawing Man-Thing, that's like
that's a hard.
I was waiting for that
joke right there. Yeah. But
that's some solid Cockrum. Right there.
I have rock hard Cockrum appreciation.
Oh yeah, we do. I know it.
Anyway, back to my point. To be in league with those folks, and I didn't really know his name, Brent Anderson. Dude can draw.
Yeah,
dude can draw.
Definitely, I would definitely agree. Like what Tim said, you wouldn't really know unless you look to see who the cover artist was. That he's definitely channeling Byrne on these.
Hey, Pat did a quick look up, and another Crusaders Club member, that would be Dave Battlewagon Collins, there would be shouting at us because Brent Anderson is largely known for Astro City.
Ooh, interesting.
Astrocity, as I like to pronounce it.
Yes. He has drawn some. I mean, he's been all over the Marvel and DC universe. He drew some Phantom Stranger in the back in 2012. He drew Kazar, some Judge Dredd, Strike Force, Morituri for the Marvel New Universe, I believe.
Okay.
Drew some Power Pack. So that's Jeff and Rick. That would be perking up at that. And Kazar the Savage, which they hyped up at the end of this book, if you read the comments from Chris Claremont. So they were hyping this guy up, and looks like he was worth his weight. Like one of those under the radar artists that we as a collective didn't get to, but some people in our realm absolutely did.
All right. Very good.
Those Power Pack issues were really very great. I remember them myself. They guest starred Marina from Alpha Flight, and they were pretty great. They featured a giant space snake, so no relevance to a Man-Thing story at all. Strike Force Morituri technically was not part of New Universe. It was a set in slightly in the future, but not of the Marvel Universe even. It was like a completely different thing. I recently read that, recently by my counting, which is 5 years ago. Boy, that's not recently anymore at all. It's a remarkable series. Seeing that his name is attached there, it's like, no wonder I like that, because he was really great. He was cooking on all cylinders with that particular series.
Kind of interesting that we are starting to see the early stuff of him right now and some of the later stuff that Delvin has mentioned. Very cool. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get into some cover ratings for this issue. It is a 1 through 5 rating. 5 is you loved it. It gave you a ring to swing from. 4, you really liked it. 3, liked it. 2, didn't like it. And 1, you hated it. It turned you into a baby man thing.
So a baby thing.
A baby thing. Let's go ahead and find out.
About baby things.
Huh?
Boy thing.
Tim, 1 through 5. How would you rate this cover?
I'm giving it a 4. I really like the artwork on this one. I don't know if I would call it iconic. I don't know if I raise it up as high as that, but I'd definitely give it a solid 4.
Solid 4 for Tim. Delvin, are you with Tim? High or lower?
I am with Tim. I'm going to give it a 4. I'm going to give Mr. Anderson a lot of credit.
Mr. Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
Weasel Skull. Jason, 1 through 5.
I'm going to go with a 3. It's a solid 3, just not quite there with a 4. I think Jared hit the nail on the head with the colors. I think that's the one thing that was distracting me. I had to really work to appreciate it.
Jared, where do you fall?
I'm going to be with Jason. I'm going to give it a 3. The black and white only and the essential, I might give that a 4. But we're rating the official cover, so I'm going to give it a 3.
Ooh, boy. Stuck in the middle between 2 guys with a 4 and 2 guys with a 3. What team do I want to be on? I really like how the blurbs are with the special guest, the macabre man thing. I like that, the way that is written there and just kind of pops up. All in all, I'm going with the 3. I didn't know who Despair was, and so that kind of threw me off a little bit. I am on 3 Island with 3 cool guys and the 2 4 chumps.
That's always on Cool Guy Island.
It doesn't matter what the score is.
Poor Island with with 2 giant-sized man things.
Oh, great! Can I?
Hey, if it's just them 2 on the island, you don't want to go.
What happens on 4 Island stays on 4 Island. All right. Well, enough about that island. Let's go ahead and get into some story synopsis from Jason. Cyclops, Storm, Banshee, Nightcrawler, Wolverine, Colossus, Children of the Atom, students of Charles Xavier, mutants, feared and hated by the world they have sworn to protect. These are the strangest heroes of all. These are the X-Men. Stan Lee presents the Uncanny X-Men.
The title of this story is Even in Death. In this issue, Cyclops teams up with Man-Thing to go after Despair, and they go after him hard. After the death of Jean, Scott is spending time away from the X-Men by serving on a fishing vessel captained by the lovely lady Lee Forrester. Lee has a bit of a crush on our former mutant team captain and convinces him to join her to visit her father in the bayou. Unbeknownst to the duo, however, the demon Despair has already murdered Lee's father and assumed his image. When the couple arrive, Despair springs his attack by bombarding them with their worst memories. Cyclops is forced to witness the death of his parents and the loss of Jean over and over again. All seems lost as Despair feeds upon these negative emotions and builds himself a giant tower/fortress. Scott, however, is able to resist and jump out of the tower, escaping the giant erection. Going limp, he's able to survive the fall. Physically and emotionally wounded, Scott suddenly finds himself in the presence of the Man-Thing, who has arrived to battle the sinister demon. Together they strap it on and beat Despair like he owed them money. In the melee, both the evil Despair and the battle-stiffened Man-Thing go up in flames. Scott and Lee barely escape with their lives. The Man-Thing rises, rejuvenated by the swamp. And Despair? Well, let's just say hope cannot exist without despair.
I don't know what to say, Jason.
Remember when I took the high road?
Yes.
I got you covered.
Thank you for that explicit content of a synopsis.
If he's Cyclops, he's like a one-eyed warrior, right?
Oh, boy.
Let's go ahead and get to some quick bric-a-brac for this issue. Is it a first read or a reread? Tim?
Yes, this is a reread for me. I was going through a bit of a binge on these issues of the X-Men back when I first got the Marvel Unlimited app, so I have read this one before.
So this is your second time with the Man-Thing. Delvin, first read or reread?
First read for me, and you never forget your first.
That you don't, Delvin. That you don't. Jason, first read or a reread?
It's a reread for me, Pat.
Oh, you and Tim. Jarrett, first read or a reread?
First read for me, bud.
It is also a first read for me, so then you guys know what that means. 3 cool guys.
Get a reading rainbow.
Woo. And 2 chumps.
No, me and Tim messed it up.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Stupid literacy.
We have a rereading rainbow.
We're going to get there someday. We're going to have, as eventually will be the thing. All right. Well, with that, let's go ahead and get to some high, lows, or what does. Tim, do you have a high, low, or what the for round 1?
I do have a high. One of the things I really like is when the X-Men use their powers in interesting ways. And when Cyclops is playing pool and just lines up his shot and does one little blast to knock all the pool balls in at one time, I just like that. So I like whenever he's using that, because it's not just showing his power, it's showing his intelligence and skill, because he can't use too much power, and he also can just do the geometry of how to make that blast work and how to make it do that. And it's not the first time he's done that particular. Lots of artists love showing Cyclops playing
trick
pool
shots.
So yeah, I really like that. That's a high for me.
It was a cool thing to see. Delvin, high, low, or what the?
I'll give it a low/what the. I don't know. For whatever reason, anytime Man-Thing's in a book, I immediately start spacing out. He's not interesting to me. I don't know why. I think that they used him, or Chris and team used him well enough in this issue, but there's just something about him that doesn't super motivate me. But I will say that I think Chris did use him well in the issue, not only because I think every issue that Man-Thing has ever been in, they always mention that he who knows fear burns at the Man-Thing's touch. Every single issue that Man-Thing is in, they are going to find a way to mention that. And so I think Chris found some pretty cool ways to play off of that, because Despair was able to just manipulate Man-Thing and use him to either just easily dismiss him or not. And so they found a way to turn that at the end to make it so that he was able to turn against, be used as a weapon against Despair. So there was that.
So is his thing that if he touched somebody, they would just burn?
No, if it's fear, if you fear Man-Thing.
Fear here? Oh, fear is Man-Thing. Oh, okay.
Yes.
I didn't. All right. I was a little confused on the whole thing as well too, Delvin. So you're not alone. Interesting how they used him, but I was still a little confused. Jason, high, low, or what the?
It's a little bit of a low for me. From a macro level, I feel like Man-Thing was kind of a forced contrivance in this entire issue. We're obviously taking a break from the main saga, and we've had a couple good individual issues. The one before this was Shadowcat, which was very interesting, and we all enjoyed. This one, although it was good, I really get the feeling that they're trying to promote Man-Thing. This is an entire issue that's really an advertisement for Man-Thing, is kind of the impression I got reading it.
I can see where you come from on that. Jarrett, you feel the same way? Or do you have a different high, low, or what the?
Well, Pat, I don't know what to call it, a high to low to what the. If you ever seen that GIF that people use on the internets, and it's like Chris Farley and he's looking up and he's very happy and excited, and then it just slowly turns into disappointment. That's kind of how I felt as I read the issue. Cyclops is my favorite X-Man, right? So I was very excited to check in with him. And then, like Jason mentioned, this is a wheel spinner, right? This is a time taker. This is a filler, while they're clearly going to be working on something else, because Byrne's not on it. Claremont jotted this one off probably pretty quickly. And I thought, well, this is really clever because this buys you time to do your new story arc. It's a filler, but I think we've all been wondering what's been up with Cyclops.
Yeah.
What's he doing? So that was a very big high for me. I was like, oh, cool. We're checking in with Cyclops. What a great idea for a filler issue. And then Mind Fight. And I'll save the rest for round 2. So for round 1, it's a high. It's checking in with Cyclops. So that was very cool. And I like Claremont proved his storytelling prowess too, because even though we only saw him for a few panels, I felt like, okay, he's been out shrimp boating, with Lieutenant Dan and Forrest and all them folks, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But like he met the pretty lady and she had a thing for him and he liked her, but he was like, the timing's not right yet. And like, there's a lot of layers that they crammed into that little backstory. And I really like that. So at the front of that book, I was like, oh, this X-Men book's going to score high.
Yeah.
But then there's a round 2.
Yeah. And he did a very good job of two different people between Cyclops, how he handles women, and how Peter does. 2 different people like that. And I think you're right that this issue kind of has some closure, but yet also some segue into some of the newer stuff. It's that middle issue between what the story was done just before how we ended, because we do see some of the X-Men team trying to clean up after all that went down in the issue before with Kitty. And now we see where Cyclops is, and is he going to come back to the team now that he's kind of got his things figured out? And, did he need this to jumpstart his, love for being part of the X-Men and just wanting to get back to that? We'll see where that goes. But all in all, I thought it wasn't that bad and wasn't overly wordy too much. I got through it in a good amount of time compared to some of the other ones we've read.
It's one of his better efforts.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Tim, high, low, or what for round 2?
Well, I'm glad you asked. So one of the things I wanted to kind of circle around on that you all have hit on, but we haven't quite come right out and said, is that this issue as a story is really less of a superhero high adventure story.
Mm-hmm.
It's a horror story.
Yeah.
That's why Man-Thing is in it, because Man-Thing does horror story. But he works in the superhero universe of the Marvel universe. So we take this as Chris Claremont's writing a horror story. And that kind of just changes how I approach it and what I expect out of it. That really is fun also for a filler. Get something like different, shake things up, get a different kind of, genre mixed in. So that's kind of where I come from that. And one of the things that I also took as a high from that was like on page 13, when we have the hallucination of fighting Sentinels and they look like the all new, all different X-Men. Yeah, I really thought that was a great twist because, like I said, hallucination, not mind fight.
It only happens in his mind. It's a mind.
Hallucinations.
All right. Well, Delvin, do you have a high, low, or what?
I'll give a high. Just more talk about Brent. But we usually do that with John Byrne and mention how John Byrne's art was fantastic. The art in this book was great. And I've already mentioned it, but Chris Claremont mentioned that in the letters column that this guy was going to be penciling Kazar, so he was a good fill-in to come in and do a spell for X-Men. I think he does another X-Men coming up about, it's going to be a while down the road, like 160. But he does another X-Men. But seamless as far as the artwork. I don't necessarily think it's like Byrne, but like especially for a tale like this, it really worked. It was not like John Byrne could not draw this issue or could have drawn a good version of this issue, but Brent came in and filled in well. And I'll riff off of Tim just really quickly. So this is kind of 2 horror stories in a row then, right? Because you had the alien type horror of last issue, and now you've got Cyclops battling his demons in this one, literally with despair. So I don't mind the horror genre necessarily. I thought that it was at least well played to give Cyclops an advance. And then I did like the peek in on Cyclops as well, because it shows that at some point, probably sooner rather than later, he's going to come back to the X-Men. That's the only reason that you involve him in a storyline, because Chris wanted to make sure that you didn't forget about him.
Very good points there, Dylan. Definitely. Jason, high, low, or what the?
I'll give it a high for nostalgia. It's interesting to see Kitty Pryde, even though she's only in here for a little bit, just a couple pages, these early days with her as an X-Man.
Mm-hmm.
As we talked about in the previous issue, she faced her own demon/alien and barely survived, but came out victorious. But she's still not very self-confident, and Wolverine and Nightcrawler are picking on her a little bit. And, you know, they're not saying anything terribly mean or anything, but she's having a hard time with it. And then Nightcrawler just goes out and gives her a coat. And that really sums up that kind of that family that the X-Men are.
Yeah.
And just to loop it back to what Delvin said, of course, Cyclops is coming back. He's the leader of this team. He's a leader of this team. And then we're going to find out, spoiler alert, that Storm is going to be just as capable of a leader of this team. And this team functions, whoever is on the team, because they care about each other and they train together. And once you're an X-Man, you're always an X-Man.
I think that's very well said. I liked the thought of them showing that they're a family. And you get to see, you know, Wolverine cutting some jokes and just laughing in this issue was kind of neat to see. And then the softer side of Nightcrawler giving her a coat and, you know, just saying, hey, you know, you're part of the family and you really did a great job. We're so proud of you. I like that. That feels so good. Just like, yeah, we're going to rib you, but that's what family members do, right? Because it's comfortable. You can kind of all have some fun and just pick on each other in a nice, fun way. So they always say that if someone's picking on you, that means they like you, right? You know, why would they want to waste their time doing that? So it's a form of affection. Just take it in that way. Jared, high, low, or what the?
Mind fight low. Yeah.
It's not a mind fight, Jared.
It is a mind fight.
It's an illusion.
It happened in Cyclops' mind. Ipso facto. Mind fight.
I don't remember seeing despair in any of the scenes with the fight.
That's right, because it's all taking place in his mind. If he was actually fighting despair, I would have enjoyed that. It would have been real. But anyways, we've all heard me beat this drum. Claremont's out to destroy me. We all know this. But I will say,
he's out to win you over. He's out to win you over.
It's not working. But to his credit, I gave him grief last issue saying he doesn't know how to write teenagers, especially a teenage girl who's like 14. Because the way she was written last issue was ridiculous. But this issue, I think I got to call back on that and say he did pretty good. Overreacting to obvious ribbing, taking it too seriously, over emotions. This is what teenagers do. So this one felt better. So I will end on a high note and say he did that well. And echo what Delvin said in his round already. Brent Anderson can draw his butt off. Again, reading essential, black and white only, looks amazing. I don't know what it looks like color because I didn't read the color version, but it looks really good. And just to be a super inker nerd and to put a feather in Joe Rubenstein's cap real quick, if you look at the parka scene where Nightcrawler gives Kitty the parka, just the way the feather furry lining around Nightcrawler's parka is done with just the inkwork brush strokes is masterful to me.
Yeah.
And that's mainly because I ink comics occasionally, but I was like, man, it's a really light touch and just a really cool effect. So I know that's super specific, but I wanted to end on a high and say I do think Chris's writing of the teenage girl improved, and the art in this book, wow. If you had told me they were going to bring in a filler artist team, I would have been like, okay, all right, we'll suffer through it. No, there was no suffer. It looked fantastic.
Definitely agree on that I couldn't even tell you that there was an art change in this at all. I was expecting it to be the same crew that was doing it before, but definitely loved it and enjoyed it. All right, well then let's go ahead and get into who went the extra mile. Let's see. There could be a few to choose from, so let's go ahead and find out. Tim, start us off. Who went the extra mile for you in this issue?
Ooh, I will have to just call back, even though the scene was small, Nightcrawler going to Kitty. I really like that moment. I mean, this is also a Cyclops issue, overwhelmingly. So it's his story to tell. I mean, but, you know, in a very small little story beat, we see Nightcrawler reaching out to Kitty to reassure her, you know, and try to bolster that confidence that she's suffering from. And also, I like the bridge building that's going on there because, you know, Kitty's initial reaction to Nightcrawler when she first introduced him, not really great. So I really appreciate that, you know, he's working it because he knows that she needs it.
Yeah.
Not to really make a relationship there, but because she's in emotional need, and he's the one who's got the empathy. You know, him and Storm both are kind of like the ones that have the heart for the group and can be a shoulder to cry on. So yeah,
Good.
I really appreciated that characterization.
Good pick.
That story there. Well, and my own kids are about the same age as Kitty, so I kind of appreciate how that dynamic was told here as well. I thought that was very true to life.
Yes, I've had many of a daughter's room door slammed in front of my face once in a while, and just.
I have to pull a Johnny Dangerously. Jordan can slam the door in my face once.
Just once.
Delvin, who went the extra mile for you?
Not many choices, so I'll go with Psych. It's not the easiest thing in the world to overcome your demons, and I think that he at least got to a place that he was comfortable with his. And also, it's always good to see. I mean, even though he has an incredible power with the concussive force of his eye beams, just how he's able to use it and just wield it as a true weapon, that he could use a lighter touch with it, and then how strategic he is and tactical in the middle of a battle against an overmatched foe, and he was able to take his surroundings and use Man-Thing against Despair to wind up pulling off of a very improbable win. That was very cool. So I give it to Sight.
I will agree with you as well, too. As Tim said, this is definitely a Cyclops-centric issue. So he definitely went the extra mile and found himself on his walkabout that he went on. Jason, who went the extra mile for you?
In my opinion, there's only one answer, and that's Angel. We've been talking about...
It was never Angel. We all know this.
Never.
We've all been talking about it. What does he bring to the team? And we found out this issue. Cut them checks. Professor X is like, I'm broke. And Kitty broke the mansion. I need money. And he's making it rain. So
I mean, how do you lie to him, though? Like, oh, prof, man, I don't got the money.
That's right.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, you do.
I already read your mind when I called you here. Damn it. I know your codes. I'm just telling you what I'm doing with your money. That's all.
Oh, man. He had to call Angel in and eat some crow. The costs are extraordinary. I don't know if I can. You just tell me how much you need, old man.
So he actually legitimately is getting an extra mile. And I can't disagree with Jason.
Yeah.
Man, amateurs talk strategy, professionals talk logistics, and Angel brings the logistics.
Jared, are you going with the same?
I was going to cop out and give the extra mile to Brent Eric Anderson just because this issue looks so dang good.
It's worth it.
I really was. But if I'm forced to go with someone from the book, I'm a Cyclops guy, Cyclops-centric. Cyclops' moment. I think it was Delvin who said, improbable win. That's what my boy does. He doesn't have the world's greatest power set, especially when compared to the other X-Men, but he's just not afraid. I mean, this is a dude that gets in Wolverine's face. And we all know he's taking massive L's if he goes and squares up against Wolverine. But I just love him for it. He's not afraid of anybody.
He knows his way now around a mind fight. He's been there lots of times.
I mean, he's been to 47 mind fights in the last 9 issues alone. So, yeah, I think he's good to go.
There's a guy that knows something, Definitely. All right, well, let's go ahead and get to some ratings for this issue. It's a 1 through 5 rating on the story. 5 is you loved it. It gave you a ring to swing from. 4, really liked it. 3, liked it. 2, didn't like it. And 1, you hated it. It turned you into a baby. Tim, 1 through 5.
Well, I will have to say that I really liked it. And we've talked about a lot of the reasons why. The character beats for the team, that small as they were, the growth of Cyclops and him coming and beating a vastly more powerful foe, and just the guest art team knocking it out of the park. So I'm giving it a 4. Give it a solid 4.
Solid 4 for you?
Or 4 natural for the musically inclined.
4 natural. Delvin, for you?
I'm at a 3. Good. Man-Thing never just piques my interest. Just doing this on camera, having a look at Jared. Just Not the easiest thing in the world. That doesn't help either. But the artwork was good. The story was good. And it'll be interesting to see Cyclops back on the team. Nothing wrong with the issue at all. Just I'm at that 3 level.
Understand. Jason, are you at a 4 or 3, high or lower?
I'm at a 3 as well. I understand where Jared's going with the mind fights. To be honest, even though we joke about it, they're not my favorite thing either. Sometimes it seems like they just do some fantastical contrivances to try to make Professor X look cool. Sometimes they work, and I think this one worked better than most because
I would agree with you on that.
You know, Cyclops really, he beat Despair, but, you know, he had to fight all of his demons. And some of those wounds are still really fresh. And he did it. He overcame it. And this issue, even though I felt like it might be a little bit of a Man-Thing advertisement, really did highlight all the things that make Scott Summers special. His leadership, his will, his resourcefulness, and his powers. All just really well highlighted here. So 3 for me.
Jared.
This may surprise everybody, but I'm actually going to land on a 4, even though it had a GD mind fight in it. When I opened it up and I was like, we're going to find out what happened to Cyclops. I was like, 5, because I like Cyclops and I like this grounded storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like, oh, we're going to do a mind fight. And I was like, 3. So what it really comes down to is how much do I like, and nobody giggle, how much does Jared like some Man-Thing?
I don't know, Jared. Why don't you tell us how much you like some Man-Thing?
I mean, I love it. I just adore the Man-Thing. I like the darker, horror, creepy corners of Marvel.
You do. Yeah.
I do. I like that because it's not something I always see a lot of. So it's kind of like, oh, that's interesting to me. It's like Swamp Thing in DC and Man.
Little twist.
Yeah. So I actually liked his appearance, although I wouldn't fight Jason in it. I think there might have been like a new series coming out around this time or something like that. But to me, it raised the interest level. So that's a Jason winded way of saying I landed on a 4. I'm giving this a 4, and the art team really, really gave it a lift too. So, and Jason also said the mind fight, one of the more forgivables. It's one of the more forgivable mind fights. So, yeah.
How in the world did we have an issue of X-Men that you scored higher than me?
I don't know.
With a mind fight in it, nonetheless. I mean, everybody giggle all you want, but we talk about this on G.I. Joe Chronicles sometimes. We talk about how much you love the cover depends on how much you like the character. And this, I think your scoring on this is really relative to how much you enjoy a Man-Thing appearance. Tee-hee-hee. And I love it. I can't get enough of that, man.
I think you said it well enough, Jared, that, knowing you do like some of that more different side of comics where it's not always superhero-y. You like some of that horror, that twisty
shows up.
Yeah, the odd stuff, the weird stuff.
Yeah.
So to say. So I think this was probably really right up your alley. And
that plus Cyclops, plus a great art team.
Yeah, the art too was very well good in it. I'm going to give it a strong 3. I can't get to the 4, but I'm definitely want to be there with you. And just seeing your excitement about it got me even more excited to be like, wow, Jared really liked
my
it.
Excitement around the Man-Thing is just unparalleled.
It made me aroused, I'll tell you that. But I'm just going to get out of the way.
I simultaneously hate and love this episode so much right now.
Oh, all right. Well, with that, that's going to bring us to the end of this part of the show. You got a comment or a question, you can call us and leave us a voicemail that we will play later on in the show. Leave us a message at 707-532-5269. That's 707-532-LBOX.
Pick up the phone. Look at my Man-Thing.
Man-Things are standing by. We will be right back.
When you think of podcasts about religion, you probably think of this.
But at least one religion podcast sounds more like this.
I kick ass for the Lord!
Dorkness to Light is a relatively geeky production in which Alan and Emily discuss topics of faith, religion, and spirituality.
but we do so through the lens of pop culture, like movies, TV, and comic books. Because we're nerds.
Our primary focus will be on Christianity, because that's what we know best. But all religious content is on the table.
Well, think about it, Scully, from vampirism to Catholicism.
This is an occasional cast, to be recorded and released as the mood strikes, with topics ranging from in-depth reviews to personal rants about some small aspect of theology or church history. Because we're theological nerds.
If these topics interest you, check out dorknesstolight.blogspot.com for our more regular content.
Or dorknesstolight.tumblr.com for our more irregular content. Memes and puns mostly. My bad.
Dorkness to Light.
Often irreverent, rarely sacrilegious.
Welcome back from the break. Now, let's get to the feedback part of the show where we share your comments, emails, questions, and shares in a segment called Crusader Comments. We're thrilled to kick off these comments with special shout outs to our Crusaders Club members. These are the fine folks that have joined our crusade. They enjoy early access to special Longbox episodes, voting to help determine show content, and so much more. These are the folks reaping the benefits and giving some much appreciated support to the show.
Angelica Wolf.
Elburn Elvis.
Bill Man-Thing Beer.
Blast it or stash it.
Braxton Underwood.
Captain Entropy.
Clinton Robeson.
Dave Battle Man-Thing Van Collins.
Ezra Gallo.
Gary Viola.
Gene Hendricks.
Gerald Green.
Jason Man-Thing Keen.
Jason Lady.
Jeremy L.
Jim Jarman Thing.
Jim Meal.
Joe Darker Man-Thing Thomas.
Oh my God. John Watson.
Josh Strickland.
Candace Ward.
Kathy Bright. MVP.
Mark Ross, a.k.a. Cluck Man-Thing Trent.
Matt and Lissy Poiso.
Maxwell Traver.
Miranda W.
P.D. Devons.
Paul Down Under Man-Thing Hicks.
Rick from Jeff and Rick Present.
Rob Morgan.
Samanthing Thamani.
Sean Urbanski.
Spidey Man-Thing 67.
Spread your man thing all over the sheet.
You knew that one was coming.
Oh, boy.
Steve Cronin.
Some guy named Tim Price.
That's a witness protection name if I ever heard one.
Tony Pennington.
And Toronto, colder up in the cold. Man-Thing Cop.
Still counts, Jared. If we missed anyone on our list, we apologize. Keep in mind that we record these episodes well in advance of release, so if you're a recent addition, we should be adding you soon. But still, no worries. Just let us know that we missed you by sending an email to contact@longboxcrusade.com and we will get it straightened out. As a reminder, you can become a Crusaders Club member by heading over to patreon.com/longboxcrusade. For as little as $1 a month, you'll get access to the amazing world of the Crusaders Club. Come check it out. Don't have any extra scratch lying around, but still want to help us out here at LBC headquarters? Please take a moment to write a review on Apple Podcasts for this podcast. Even if you just want to keep it short with just a 5-star rating, it helps raise the profile of the show, and we will share your review on the next show. So let's get to those social media shares and retweets from Amazing Spider-Man Chronicles episode 68 from October 1980, featuring Amazing Spider-Man 212 and Uncanny X-Men 141. Tim, start us off.
Hey, you have shares from Tim Price, the Podcrasher, at Tim Price 17.
Sounds like a witness protection name to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You couldn't have chose maybe Tim the Man-Thing Price. Anyway.
Hindsight is 2020 back.
Next up is Dr. Strange from our friend Billy D, and he is delicious.
And thanks to Oscar Marin, who also did his part and shared the love.
We're going to move on to social media comments. Jason, if you want to read one.
I'll just start at the top here, and it says, from Fan Film Fridays podcast, the 90s Spidey animated series sure got a lot of mileage out of Hydro Man. Best I remember, they didn't shy away from showing him as a toxic ex-boyfriend of MJ who didn't understand boundaries.
And why should he understand boundaries? He's basically 75% of planet Earth, if you think about it.
That's right.
In any event, Unpacking the Power of the Power Pack says, yes, this is a 5 cover. By the way, this would be the start of the Days of Future Past storyline. And he says it should be on the wall, especially if you can get it signed He's flexing a little bit. He has a picture of Days of Future Past in a nice frame, and it's signed by, I'm going to guess that is Chris Claremont.
Very cool.
I'm officially going to brand that as fancy, by the way. It's the official representative.
Officially fancy level, Jared, fancy level?
Yes.
I do think that's really cool. And if I've seen Rick post a lot, and I really like his wall of comics that he has, those frames that he has on the wall. That's really cool idea to do.
Yeah, that's a good looking setup he's got.
Yeah. Tim, you want to take the next one?
Sure. Next up, we have our friend Doc Strange, Billy Delicious, back again, who writes, "Good show, guys. I think 1 to 2 issues later, Byrne leaves the book. Great run with Claremont, Austin, and company. One of my all-time favorite comic book runs. I'm not sure if I've read that Spidey book, but I'll definitely seek it out." That's always good to hear. We like to share the joy of these books, right?
Mm-hmm. That's what it's all about. Speaking about sharing the joy, I'll take one from the next person. You may have heard of him before. His name is Tim, the Pod Crasher. And Tim says...
That sounds like a fake name.
It does. Witness protection name, I would think. Yeah. And Tim says, the title, Days of Future Past, at a glimpse is nonsense and contradictory.
No, it's not.
Make me say big words.
It sounds contradictory.
Ah, I get that. I see what you did there. But that's exactly the sort of phrase that fires the imagination and bursts the story. And now it's such a legendary part of X-Men history, it stirs the soul just hearing it. Amazing. I mean, uncanny. Oh, Tim, you and your wordplay.
What a witty and insightful comment. That's amazing.
It is.
That is a true gentleman right there.
Mm-hmm. A true gentleman with a sketchy past, so he's in with sec. I will take the next one, which is from Nigel Spink, which that is fun as hell to say, by the way. Nigel Spink. I like that. And Nigel says, I have both these issues. Might give it a listen. Surprise face emoji. And I hope you did, Nigel. And I hope you're listening to this right now and you heard your comic get read, because we'd love to have you on board as part of the Crusaders family. So I hope you gave it a listen, bud. And I hope you enjoyed it.
I guess it's back around to me, so I'll just wrap it up with one from John, and I'm going to guess Hijack. And John says, "This is nice, a new podcast, and 2 books I had as a kid. I got both in a brown subscription wrapper in the mail." Brown subscription wrapper, Tim.
Sounds like a very wise person. And knew a bargain when they saw it.
New commenters from Nigel and John. So I hope they get to hear these. Thanks for joining in, fellas.
Yep, absolutely. Welcome to the show, guys. We appreciate you being here. And if you like to, you can call us and leave a voicemail that we just might play on the show. Leave us a message at 707-532-5269. That is 707-532-LBOX. And thank you to everyone for the likes, shares, follows, and comments. We appreciate your friendship and your help in spreading the word about this podcast.
And that's the show. Be sure to check out the website longboxcrusade.com, where posts will be made for journaling this crusade. I want to thank Tim, Jared, Jason, and Delvin for joining me on this episode. But before we go, let's find out where the listeners can find us on the internet. Tim, where can you be found?
You can find me on Twitter at TimPrice17. Totally not a made-up name. It's a totally legit name. And you can also find me on the Right On Network podcasts. I do the Batgirl Cassandra Cain with our fearless leader, AJ. And I also, with him, do the Outcasters, a Batman and the Outsiders podcast. And you can find that show on Twitter also at Bat Outcasters.
And I hear you also work with our HR person, Laurel, sometimes.
I do occasionally have crossovers with the other people on WON. Laurel does a great job. I don't know why you guys keep trying to poach her for your HR services. She's plenty busy keeping our books in order.
Who's poaching who here?
Yeah, she's been our HR from the beginning.
Yeah.
If you see her, tell her we'd like her to show up, though.
I beg to differ.
Delvin, where can you be found?
Agree to disagree, Tim. You can find me at DEE_RAY1977, Instagram, Delvin Ray. Right, you got.
Well, thank you, Delvin. I'm glad you asked. I can be found at Christatos01. Jason.
I'm still lurking around from time to time on Instagram. I'm at Jason Albrick.
And Jared, where can you be found?
I am at Yard Sale Artist, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. It's all at Yard Sale Artist. You can check out my artwares at www.theyardsaleartist.com. Of or my new website, www.whatdidtimdo.com/fake name.
/man thing.
And if you want to interact with us via live chat and be entered in to win some free stuff on our live raffles, join us on our next episode of Doing It live stream on YouTube. We do that normally on the second Sunday of every month at around 3:30 p.m. Central Time. So come and check out the Longbox Crusade on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button and smash that bell so you get the alerts of when we go live. Thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoyed this episode of Amazing Spider-Man Chronicles. You got a comment or a question, email us at contact@longboxcrusade.com or leave a comment on the Longbox Crusade Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter page, all at Longbox Crusade. Until next time, take care, and please join us for the next episode as we continue on the crusade to
Read them all!
The intro music is provided by musical genius Joe November.
Check out his SoundCloud at JOSEFLIN99. You won't regret it.
All songs, song clips, and characters discussed are copyright of their respective copyright holders, and no infringement is intended. We are just fans that like to share our love of comics.
Outtakes.
I'm trying to figure out where to put the apostrophe again, but I'll get it.
The Elven.
The Elven.
Arc web.
The Arc Web.
The Arc
Think of it like the Elven, but
the Elven. Okay.
But then just take the and replace it with the.
Okay.
The Elven.
The Elven. All right.
He's gonna mess it up next time.
Yeah, I will.
Tim did the non-pun.
Yes.
I like that.
We always like non-puns.
This is what we aim for in most of our content.
Oh,
Yes.
puns.
Yeah, and these nuts jokes, but of course, if you're going to have a pun, then you're going to go to the these nuts.
Yeah, they're adjacent.
Yeah, you can't have one without the other.